This is Andrew Phipps, and I'm happy to be with you today. I hope that you enjoy our program in which we try to educate and help advocate, and we want each one to participate in the efforts to keep our government free and to do all that we can do as citizens to make improvements wherever possible. My good friend Michael Clark of the American Family Association of Indiana sent me this thing, this work that was titled 1984. The material says, in his futurist novel titled 1984, George Orwell wrote about a government in which information was controlled and monitored. People who spoke could only say certain things without expecting punishment or scorn. Orwell warned, the further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those that speak it. Unfortunately, today we live in a similar time to Orwell's fictional account. Speak out in public today, particularly as a Christian, in regard to a moral matter such as human sexuality, and you can expect hatred, no matter how kindly you say something. This is a dangerous age as we drift from what our founding fathers intended with the First Amendment. You see, silence is surrender. It is my hope that this program will educate folks everywhere on the issues of the day, and then we can activate viewers to speak up. When we all stand together speaking the truth, we can overcome the cultural tendency to go along with lies and encourage others to stand for what is and always has been right and true and best for our nation and its people. I believe that it was also said by George Washington in his first inaugural address. George Washington said this, 1789's April the 30th, Washington stated, "No people can be bound to acknowledge and adore the invisible hand, which conducts the affairs of men more than the people of the United States. Every step by which they have advanced to the character of an independent nation seems to have been distinguished by some token of providential agency." George Washington and others believe very conclusively that providence was a great factor in the development of our nation. Half a truth is often a great lie, so said Benjamin Franklin. Even in the mid-1700s, the British preacher George Whitefield said, if you're going to walk with Jesus Christ, you are going to be opposed. In our days, to be a true Christian is really to become a scandal. Mind you, George Whitefield said this prior to 1754, before his death. I wonder what the great preacher would say today of those persons of ungodly and wicked imaginations that are trying to tear down all that is holy and good. Dr. Clarence Sexton, pastor of the Great Temple Baptist Church and founder and president of the Crown College of Knoxville, Tennessee, said, quote, "Our attitude towards God's Word is our attitude toward God. May we have the clarity of mind and discernment to acknowledge these truths," and we'll be back with more in just a few moments. And it's good to have you back with us today. I do want to acknowledge one of our sponsors, Clemens Home Solutions, there on South Madison Street in Muncie, Indiana. I have known these wonderful friends for a long, long time. Sean Clemens, the proprietor, and the good staff there. I have not seen a cleaner, more attractive establishment, a facility than Clemens Home Solutions. And I mean, everything is done professionally, with integrity. Christians are in this group, Clemens Home Solutions. I hope that you'll remember them and thank them for what they're doing as we have this Faith, Family, and Freedom program. It was said in the Federalist Papers, number 51, in framing a government which is to be ministered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the government, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. What a powerful statement. For example, in the West Virginia Board of Education versus Burnett, 1943, the Supreme Court ruled that if there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, shall prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or any other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or act their faith therein. When I was teaching, I usually used Magruder's American Government. I thought it was a good textbook. It was at the high school level. And as a good source of material, it was said, the framers of the Constitution repeated the justification for existence of government in the preamble to the Constitution. That document, they said, was written to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to secure the blessings. And that means not only for ourselves, but our posterity, as I interpret it, means our legacy, our children, our great-grandchildren, the next generation, and so on. A commitment to personal freedom is deeply rooted in America's colonial past. For centuries, the people of England waged a continuing struggle for individual rights, and the early colonists brought a dedication to that cause with them to America. Their commitment to freedom took root here, and it flourished. The Revolutionary War was fought to preserve and expand these very rights. The rights of the individual against government. Remember, government in the United States is limited, or it was so intended to be. The attacks we have seen of late against our personal freedoms and liberties, although some may appear subtle and others are right in front of us, these cannot be accepted nor tolerated. The fight against our freedoms, our rights, including the most basic to all others, the right to freedom of religion, the right to acknowledge God in the public square and in the heart of free speech, are being trampled upon with a disdain for the individual like we have never seen before. Even freedom of the press is being violated by its own members to chip away at the bedrock of all that we hold dear, the cornerstone of our democracy. If we do not have the rights of free and non-censored free speech, then pray tell, what rights do we have? If a government can control what you can say, they can control what you think. We'll be back in just a moment. And as we were talking in the last segment, silence can be golden to those who are part of the thought police. The thought police. And we know rights are relative. No one has the right to cause harm to others by slander or, in the printed form, libel. Truth is always the antidote for communication. In other words, the basic criteria must be, is it true? If so, there must be no muffle put upon the right of the individual to speak it. Common sense dictates, however, that good judgment must be used in what we say. Sometimes it's not always expedient to tell everything we know, even if it be truthful. But in the public square, we must remember that there are always those whose pedigrees seemingly propel them into embracing what they know themselves to be idiotic, and they come to believe that what they have all of the answers for each one of us. Even in our own country, there are those who dislike America and want it to be something else. They seem not to care that in their pursuits to be the caretakers of our society and part of the elites, that even if it means doing away with common sense and what has always worked to the benefit of society, may now take us to the ash heaps of our downfall. If we are to continue, we must resist these dastardly deeds at all costs. The late Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister who dedicated and guided England through its darkest days, when Adolf Hitler and the Nazis bombed London relentlessly, day and night, and when it seemed almost inevitable that the superior air power and military strength of the German would reduce England to ashes, Winston Churchill said this: "Victory at all costs, victory in spite of all terror, victory however long and hard the road may be, for without victory there is no survival. We shall not flag or fail. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender." The speech was given to the House of Commons after the Battle of Dunkirk, June the 4th, 1940. May God give us, as Americans, some of that resolve as well. God bless America, land that I love. It has been said, and rightfully so, that we are a republic. A republic means that we have no titular head like a king or queen. We did give Winston Churchill the honor of calling him Sir Winston Churchill, and that was done by an act of Congress. In America, we recognize no titles of nobility other than if colleges want to confer degrees or whatever, that's within their jurisdiction. But as far as the government is concerned, we are a nation of laws and not of men. I think that a republic is what Benjamin Franklin had in mind when the lady came to him, as I mentioned in an earlier program, and asked him, "Mr. Franklin, what kind of a government do we have?" And he said, "Madam, we have a republic if we can keep it. But we also have a participatory democracy in the fact that citizens are given the opportunities to make their will known. Now, it's not direct democracy. Direct democracy is like you might have in a New England town meeting where everybody comes together and assemble, and right there in free discourse, they are able to come to decisions as to how they want their localities to be governed and under what stipulations. The only restrictions is that it cannot violate the federal Constitution and, of course, the state Constitution. But the federal Constitution is the supreme law of the land. When we think about citizens, we know that as a representative democracy, we have, I think, approximately 330 million citizens. Well, it would be nice if we could all assemble somewhere, but at this point in time, at least, we're not able to do that. Maybe technology might allow it at some future time, but we send representatives to the House of Representatives. We send 100 senators to the United States Senate, 2 from each state, and we have 435 members of the House. It's to function as a bicameral legislature. That means that laws proposed, a bill that's proposed in one house has to pass the other body. There are certain functions that each chamber has. For example, in the House of Representatives is where you have the authority to begin and to declare war, etc. In the United States Senate, they have to approve and ratify treaties. But I think what we've been studying today is so important. The concept of free speech. We cannot, we must not, we shall not surrender free speech, whether it be in the schoolhouse, in our own houses, or in the church house. We must have the right to say in our churches, for example, thus saith the Word of God. The 10 Commandments are not 10 suggestions. Now, we realize that a law cannot hurt or punish someone else. Majority rules, but we respect the rights of the minority. We've always championed the concepts of equality before the law. And we realize that we probably have never, in a collective fashion, maybe achieved pure decision makings, whether it be in our jury processes or whatever. We're just humans. But we do the best we can under those stipulations of knowing that we're fallible. We make mistakes. But in the democratic process, we do try to improve upon those things that we might have embraced early on in our beginnings, maybe the poll tax, or the fact that you had to own property or meet religious qualifications, or the fact that women up until the 19th Amendment could not vote. We have made great progress, but our theme today has been this: we shall not surrender our rights to free speech. We have the right to agree to disagree, and it ought to be done amicably. We shouldn't do it with vengeance and hatred. We should not do it with vitriolic intent. We can reason, we can come together and discuss an idea. I believe it was Victor Hugo that said, nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come. An idea is simply that, an idea. And we thrash it out sometimes. Sometimes it may be heated discussions in the halls of Congress, but traditionally we have worked those disagreements out. We realize that in a body as large as the House of Representatives, that there are all kinds of interests there. The agrarian, the industrial, the rich, the poor, the large states, small states, states that are on the coast, states that are inside our boundaries and so on. There are different interests. Not everybody is going to want the same things, but collectively, we have tried to do what we could to make this a more secure and blessed nation. But free press, and I, along with you, would challenge the press to speak the truth. There's a little paper that down in McCreary County, Kentucky, where my folks lived for a while, that said, "Hew to the lines of truth and let the chips fall where they may." There is nothing greater than truth. When Christ stood before Pilate, and Pilate said, "What is truth?" he didn't realize perhaps that he was looking at the perfect personification, the embodiment of truth. Truth is always the answer. Truth is always the solution to the dilemma. Truth is always applicable to any and all situations. If we cannot speak truth, then we really have serious problems. And I think our press, I think our Congress people should have the audacity and the willingness, the backbone, as it were, to speak truth. We can take truth, we can accept it. And I hope that these Faith, Family, and Freedom broadcasts are an encouragement, inspirational, and educational for you and your families. And I want you to do all you can to help advertise it. We're on YouTube also. And this is Andrew Phipps saying, may God bless you and yours.
Phipps, Faith, Family, and Freedom, presented by Clemens Home Solutions and Blue Gate Restaurant and Bakery, Heritage Funeral Care, Ashton Surveyors, Hillsdale Farm, Cardinal Exteriors Roofing Specialist, Dr. Jeff Hiltz, and Sam Pierce Chevrolet.